Good morning. Oh, it's an impromptu video. I've been wanting to do it anyway. I didn't want to really tie it into the drama, but I wanted to do a video on this knife because it's like my dad carried one very similar to this. It wasn't the exact same model. I think it had a little bit of a nicer handle on it. I don't know. I bought this used off of eBay. It's a Gerber EZ Out, made in the USA. Plastic handles, backlock, S30V, made in the USA. Yeah, it's pretty much my dad's kind of knife. Story about my dad, real quick. Well, it probably won't be real quick. I'm gonna try to make it as quick as possible though. I grew up in West Tennessee, Northwest Tennessee, and my dad and my mom, they were separated. Whenever I'd spend my summers with my dad, and there was a little dive bar in Kentucky across the state line, probably about 40 minutes or so, and it was always full of bikers. Most of those bikers were Hell's Angels. I would just about assume, I would say about 99% of the bikers there were Hell's Angels. In fact, most of the time, if there wasn't a Hell's Angel in that bar and he was riding a bike, it was probably my dad. By the time I was 14 years old, man, I knew every square inch of that bar. Like my dad wasn't, it wasn't alcoholic. He went up there to, I don't know, hang out, and stuff. And sometimes he would have me with him. Most of the time we wouldn't show up on a bike. Most of the time we would show up in a C10. Like old box Chevy truck. If it wasn't that, a Buick Roadmaster, an older model. It was like a 90, 94, 95, something like that. Anyway, one time we were in there on a bike, and I didn't ride with him. My stepmother dropped me off at the bar. That's where my dad was going to be, and I was at the house bored and probably getting on her nerves. And she was like, "Come on, I'll take you to eat, Daddy." And we went up there to that bar, and she dropped me off. I walked in. Everybody said hi. Everybody was really friendly in that place. And my dad, even though he wasn't a Hell's Angel, he was widely accepted in the community or whatever. He did have supporter badges and stuff like that. I'm not sure. He didn't talk about his business with the local bikers and stuff. Like, all I know is he seemed to be really good friends with them, but he wasn't affiliated directly with them. I know okay, Dad's dead now, and he passed away back in 2016, and this I only really remember him having about 3 different knives. Sometimes he would have multiples of those knives, but he had Gerber gators. I remember when my brother came back from the military in like 2000 or 99 or something like that. He come home from on a short visit, a leave, I suppose you would say, and he brought both of us back a Gerber gator. It was made in the USA, and my dad carried that knife probably till he got close to the end. But he also had one, something very similar to this. Anyway, I remember when I first started getting into knives, and I started figuring out like the different steels. This thing's got so much oil in it. It's been leaking oil like my dad's old Chevy since I got it. I don't know how much oil's in there. Probably blown a piston. Regardless, I was looking at one of his knives, and it was probably I think it was one that was like this. And I said, "Man, that thing is S30V steel." And he was like, "What's that mean?" And I was like, "Well, it's a powder metal, and like so all the components that make up the metal are evenly distributed instead of like like having big chunks of carbon and ingot steel and this and that and blah blah blah. And he just kind of nodded his head and like smiled. We started talking about the heat treatment processes and stuff, and how there was which I didn't know what I was talking about. Still really don't, because I never heat treated a knife. So anyway, he just nodded his head and like smiling. He's like, man, yeah. He said, I guess it's a decent knife. Like he said, it gets the job done. It does what I need it to do, and that's all I really ask of it. And was talking about, I brought up Benchmade at the time and told them that they were supposed to have, I was a Benchmade fanboy at the time. Told them they were supposed to have better heat treats and asked him if he wanted one. And he just looked at me and kind of chuckled and said, boy, I'm proud of you. And I said, why? He said, because you figured it out. I said, figure what out? He said, figure out how to have enough time to worry about stupid shit. I was like, what makes it stupid? He said, well, it ain't stupid. He said, it's good to have healthy hobbies and stuff. He said, just I ain't got time. I don't have the time on my plate to worry about steel types and heat treats and all this other stuff. If the knife works, it works, and if it don't, then I ain't buying it again. When it's time to buy a new knife, I'll go with a different one. But like I've seen dozens of knives that he's owned, right? But he always like gravitated toward the same ones. And I had an old Randall fixed blade that was gifted to him by my granddad. I'm 95% sure. He had some Chinese knives that would roll through and stuff, and he'd always pitch them my way and be like, hey, you can do whatever you want to with this, man. It's pot metal. And he would tell me, if it ain't pot metal, you get the job done. To him, you weren't gonna get an argument out of him about S30V being better than 440C. Because 440C always did him right. And it didn't take him 5 minutes to sharpen a knife. And when that blade couldn't take another sharpening because of plunge or whatever, he'd just go buy another one. One time in that biker bar, something that the only reason I want to bring this story up is because of what one of the angels said while I was in there. One time I was in there with Diddy, and I was sitting at the end. I was sitting at the end of the bar, playing cards, like we were playing 21 or blackjack with one of the other bikers and his wife or his girlfriend. Dude walks in. I guess I probably, yeah, never mind. Dude walks in and said, hey, who's rice burners out here? And this guy was from California. We had that bar had visitors, had Hell's Angels come in from every corner of the earth. And my dad drove he rode on a Honda Shadow. And my dad stood up and he said, well, that's my Shadow out there. He said, it's a rice cooker, but it don't burn nothing. And a few of the bikers laughed. And that dude, he didn't laugh. He started walking toward my dad. And my dad started walking toward him. And for the first time in my life, I remember being scared for my dad. So my dad was about 5'7", about 140 pounds, soaking wet. And almost immediately, this dude jumped up and said, Jimmy, that soft-tail heritage is the only thing that makes you a biker. He said, you understand what I'm saying? That Harley makes you who you are. But it don't matter what Ford is riding around on. He's going to make that bike what it is. And he's welcome here. We don't want no problems. So my dad bought him a beer, sat down, cut up and laughed. About an hour or so later, we cut out. Some men make bikes, and some bikes make men. And that's just how it is. some knives make men in this knife community, and some men make knives. I'm not talking about physically making the knife. I'm talking about every once in a while you might find somebody that uses a knife so much in a way that it was intended to be used that it starts gaining notoriety. I think the Rambo knife was any better than a Bowie. And Bowie made that knife what it was. You know, like, I know the Rambo was a Bowie, but what I'm saying is like just a regular old Bowie, you know, like a regular Bowie from, you know, some Clint Eastwood movie. That stuck with me, man. It resonated with me. Some men make and some men are made. You know, you understand? You know, like, and therefore, I don't heat treat knives, and I don't know how to heat treat a knife. But I'd tell you this: I got a guy in the comments, and I enjoy when it, you know, like, it don't bother me a bit when he gets on here. Tactical Center, talking to you, buddy. It don't bother me a bit when he gets on here and he wants to be inquisitive. He wants to be argumentative. I've lost 2 subscribers today. If Tactical Center ain't one, that means he run both of the people off that he was screwing with this morning about stuff he don't know nothing about. You can read all the books you want to read, but you know, if you're complaining about stuff you can't change, your knives make you. Right now, my knives make me. You know, like, I don't want to live the lifestyle where I'm so notoriously known about how I use my knives and what I do with my knives that people want to carry the same knives that I carry. Right? That's not the lifestyle I want to live. It's not the world we live in anymore. But we're not too far gone from it. So we look like idiots when we complain about stuff, you know. Dad, though, saying if it ain't Chinese pot metal, man, it's gonna work. You know, like, it don't matter what steel it is. It don't matter about the heat treat. It matters to some of us because this is our hobby and stuff. But what I'm saying is, if the knife works, it works. If it don't work, don't give them your money anymore. But I am starting to envy people who have time to worry about stupid shit because I feel like they've got it figured out. Video's long enough. Thanks for sitting through it. I don't want to remove anybody from the channel, Tactical. I don't, you know, you mess with me all you want to. Don't be running my people off. Yeah. Keeping you around is not important enough to be losing everybody else that you decide to fuck with. Catch you on the flip side.